For fuck's sake, Simone huffs, as she backs away from her opponent, having barely been able to not be diced into sizzling mush by the cheater's forearm bullshit. The cold-faced cyborg seems to mock her by lashing the platform floor in jump rope motioning circles as it limps towards her once more. Thankfully, Simone's impromptu shuttle roof squish maneuver seems to have greatly evened the odds. Although this person's strength and speed outmatches hers by a wide margin, his movements are for the most part fairly stiff and predictable. But that only grants the redhead an edge in defending herself, as she can only keep up by the skin of her teeth. Taking flashing glances around, she hopes to see nearby civilians taking notice and attempting to contact authorities, but the only eyes on this situation are distant folk watching from across the core. Surely the crashing and falling shuttle should be enough to gain enough attention to get some sort of support. Keeping herself in a retreating defense, Simone deflects a barrage of incoming stabs and slashes with her own resilient blade. She was far from a master swordswoman, but she fought with a melee weapon many times in her past to compensate for that fact. She just needs to keep her distance and hope for an opportunity to present itself. A searing red crystal blade glances her shoulder, another her thigh. Burning pain erupts from the wounds as micro shards of dissipating crystal grinds like glass before fully evaporating. There is no way she can maintain this, as the pain alone nearly compromises herself to more direct hits. Knowing she was no master telekinetic space monk, the redhead leaps back towards the ledge and rolls. In a swift motion, she picks up a small remaining chunk of shuttle scrap with her offhand and throws it at the charging cyborg. The scrap strikes the heavily damaged leg, sending the aggressor to tumble forward. One set of the bladed arms deactivated to swiftly catch the fall with ease. However, in an opportunistic gamble, Simone dashed forward in a drive-by upward goal swing. Her emerald green blade cracks and reconstitutes as it carves deeply into the cyborg's upper torso and neck, nearly shearing his shoulder and connected arms clean off. Simone narrowly avoids the twisting swings aiming for her ankles as the cyborg fell to the floor, rolled, and stood once more with only half of his arm's armament to bear. Using one of the remaining blades, he severs the now useless dangling chunk of torso and arms completely free without hesitation, before shooing a more fencer-type stance. Proud of herself, but careful to not get too cocky, Simone assumes her defensive posture once more. Breathing out, she gives her opponent a crack of her neck and a smirk. The apartment intruder turns to the dashing Devon as he runs across the central space and away from her. "I can't see you with my scanners. Impressive," the monotone voice compliments, as she raises her non-bladed hand to take aim with her wrist. But whatever weapon is about to activate never gets the chance, as the whole arm is blasted by a concussive shot, sending the feminine cyborg around in a tight, staggering circle. Despite being told to wait for fireworks, Chuck is satisfied with her protective shot, though she still hides behind the door as the cyborg looks directly at her location in a not-so-friendly attitude. "Consider your chance spent," the intruder said as she recovers. But before she can take a step, the marbles scattered around her began to rattle and hop in jitters. "Hey!" Devon shouts, as he chucks a whistling metal pipe in a spinning flash. Without hesitation, the intruder swipes the pipe in twain with her blade, sending the two halves clashing behind her. Though proven to indeed be a mere pipe that failed to make contact, it did its job splendidly. While distracted, the cyborg didn't react to the dozens of marbles zipping right into her, as though suddenly magnetized. Then, like popcorn from hell itself, they all pop their casing, and bright yellow foam explodes and expands out in encasing masses. It appears to start seeping in every nook and cranny of the cyborg's body, in attempts to clog and incapacitate her completely. But catching onto this, she uses her blade to carve at the masses, successfully removing a fair bit of the most concerning obstructions. Not standing for this one bit, Chuck takes aim and fires again. Hitting center mass, the cyborg reels back silently without so much as a cry of pain. Taking this opportunity, Devon takes aim with his own handheld weapon and takes a shot. A wire net blankets over the bullet's cyborg and instantly constricts into a transparent standing body bag. The going blade manages to cut through the net, but only frees the single limb as the remaining foam in conjunction with the net fully entraps the rest of the intruder. In a seemingly final attempt to attack, the free blade aims itself directly at Devon before firing out like a shaftless arrowhead. Raising his grip rectangular device in just the nick of time, a hard light riot shield appears, causing the now sourceless crystal to shatter and evaporate upon impact. Before there was time to celebrate a victory, a fresh blade constitutes itself and starts hacking and slicing away at the yellow cocoon. Then the Terran-shaped form itself begins to release steam, as the inhabitant activates a scorching purge, usually reserved for decontamination. The burning stench immediately fills the air, as the foam starts to resemble blackening, melting marshmallows. Sloping in a forward pace, the coated, stretching ooze flops off and leaks out of every crevice. The dark, metallic material of the cyborg starts to show through. Kicking himself into gear, Devon fires a second and third net to stall for time, and dives behind the kitchen island. Quickly, he starts to dig through his satchel for one of his backup plans. Chuck peeks out to see that the nets have little effect without the phone's assistance, as they get sliced apart without too much trouble from the intruder. Thankfully, the internals of the cyborg seem to be junked up in some fashion, as her movements are jerky, as if fighting significant internal resistance. Not so thankfully, she's nearing the Terran's location with a clear murderous intent. Having no choice, the princess fires a succession of shots, all but one finding their mark. Nearly being sent to the floor, with her torso being more concave than convex, the cyborg's bladed arm fires a streak of ignited gel from her wrist at the Callie. Despite taking cover, she isn't fast enough to be partially impacted. Her upper arm plating catches the flames, as does her rifle. In sheer panic, Chat dropped her burning weapon and ejected her arm's armored plating to keep herself free from harm. She watches as her treasured pulse rifle starts to blacken and deform from the intense raging gel. Then, looking up, she sees her only exit flicking up in incredible heat as the floor buckles and doorframe melts. Now left alone to his own mental and literal devices, Devin takes hold of what he needs, just as the heavy stomp of the cyborg's feet lands upon the island. Dashing to what is supposedly the Grad Relations building, Miki and Nodrin scramble in before the door could barely open itself. The couple are immediately hit with the entry hall being incredibly comforting despite the pressing situation. Lining the walls are recently displayed artworks of the Grad people. Few are of any grand worth, but each represents an element of the Grad's cultures, practices, and society. There are even vid screens softly playing musical performances and panning vistas of their world. Even the scent in the very air replicates the influence of their world's flora. They couldn't stay to fully appreciate it all, but it all the same reignited their spirits from a bonfire into a star. This is exactly why they are here. The couple left their world to travel the stars, to be a voice in a new expanse of accessible reality. Now they do as Grat have always done, protect the greater community, with everything they can muster. "Do you believe they are right before us, dearest?" Miki says, as they near the end of the entry hall. Before her bombmate can even speculate, the sounds of weapons discharging, followed by a muffled minor explosion, ring out ahead. Practically running on all fours now, the two Grat break through the next double door, throwing caution to the wind. Crashing in, they find themselves in a waiting lounge of sorts in the midst of Deathworlders in combat. Brandy is positioned behind a structural pillar to the far right, near a floor access hatch. In her hands is a recovered MiC radioactive slug repeater rifle that she uses to cover Troy, whom which is fending off 3 MiCs near the center in more close quarters combat amongst seating and turned over tables. To the right are 4 more MiC riflemen guarding a still smoking breach door, deterring the Terrans with peppering shots. But it's who lays in front of them that catches the Grat's attention. 2 deceased Grat guardsmen, mercilessly riddled with excessive entry wounds. Under their helmets, painted with open, sharp-teeth maws, the bombmate's blood starts to boil over. Their armored tails weave together for only but a moment before they crank their suits to potentially self-harmful levels. The Grat will bring promise to the stars. They will bring voices of peace. Their people will sing to a new era of grace for all to hear. But today is the day that the universe tastes the ever-rare vengeful wrath of the Grat people, their sparse declaration of battle. Like 2 bolts of living ballista fire, the Grat rocket through the air directly at the breach door and those who guard it. Calling projectiles glance and miss the new arrivals as they seek in. Miki latches onto the first MiC, wrapping her arms around their egg-shaped head and finally twisted nearly all the way back around. Nodrin came to another really low, before striking upward with their power suit claws presented. They grasp a puncture straight through the MiC's body cavity, sending a spray of bluish-green fluids into the mercenary behind. Then swinging themselves with the collapsing victim, Nodrin yanks the repeater free from the dying grasp and tightly spins it in the air. In a gruesome crunch, the repeater collides against the already blooded third MiC's head. In a not-so-clean cleave, the cranium splits into 2, giving the nearby wall a fresh coat of brained paint. The 4th and final MiC aims at Nodrin point blank, but before the firing mechanism can be pulled, the mercenary is tackled to the floor. Without so much as a whole standard second passing, Miki repeatedly stares fiercely into the MiG for daring to exist within this place of hope for her people. Brandishing her new crystalline dagger that steams from MiG blood, her 4 visored eyes lock with Nordrin before they leave the 2 Terrans to wrap up the rest and charge into the ambassador's office proper. Simone holds her sword ahead of her, deflecting prodding jabs and sidestepping lancing thrusts. The fight is far more evenly matched, however making one mistake still probably resulted in death. The tall duelists rotated in circles, their crystalline blades searing the air with flakes drifting away as they collide over and over. "You know, I just realized that I don't really care which one you were," Simone says to the faceless cyborg. "Assuming you're one of them at all. I mean, if one rose from death, why not more?" she reasons. She parries an incoming bold thrust and punishes it with a swift counter that drags down her opponent's blade and severs the mechanism created it. It pops and bursts liquefied crystal like a sparkler fountain. Still emotionally unfazed, the cyborg keeps up his final arm, attaching what remained of the other half to reinforcement. "You all died that night. At least the people I thought you were." Simone speaks up more, carefully positioning herself into a different pose. "I mourned you for all these years. That pain and guilt I carried, it just about killed me more than once. And it left scars in me, scars I won't ever heal, because you may have all lied to me, but I still see your faces. The betrayal in them all were genuine. You trusted me, maybe even loved me as much as I loved all of you." For once in this fight, Simone goes on the offensive. In a cold, calculating demeanor, she presses her attack. The speed of the cyborg still outmatched hers, but the redhead's blades, constant breaking and reconstituting at his superior reach, kept the predictably hard to track. "You were all people, with lives, families and aspirations. That is why it still hurts," Simone declares, as her attacks grow more aggressive and wild. Then, without warning, her blade completely dissipates into crystal dust. Finding his golden opening, the cyborg lurches forward. There is no fear in Simone's eyes, as the enemy's blade draws closer and closer to her defenseless chest. Because just as the cyborg notices the opportunity, she takes one hand off her sword's pommel while twisting her torso into a fencer-like pose. With her extending posture, she reactivates her blade, causing the blade to explode out and puncture the neck. From his nape, the tip of the green blade reconstitutes into a jagged mess akin to a sprouting tree. Not even an inch from her chest, the red crystal blade shakes as if begging to make it to its mark, but the wielder goes completely limp, denying it the target. For a moment, Simone considers looking under the faceplate anyway. Her curiosity burns to know if it is someone she has already killed before, but there isn't time for that. This cyborg has already stolen too much of it. "I'm leaving you behind," she says, as she deactivates her sword again, allowing the mostly metal corpse to drop like a sack of tin cans. "For good this time," she promises, before turning away to run towards the Grat embassy. Blocking a powerful downward stomp of a cybernetic leg with his riot shield, Devin rolls away and turns to face her. His shield flickers unstably from the blow, but thankfully corrects itself. "Still with me, princess?" he shouts, with his back to the burning flames. "Yes, but I'm unable to assist further," the Kelly replies. "Got it, hold tight," the man directs, as the cyborg approaches him again. With her damaged, unbladed arm, she backhands his shield with tremendous might, sending him clean off the floor and backsliding. Nearly being bowled into ignited gel, Devin grunts, holding up his flipping shield again, as the intruder leaped down upon it in a hammering strike. This time, the hard light barrier could only take so much before breaking, only sparing the man from being crushed then and there. Then within a blink, a boot came down right over his face. In his career as a bounty hunter, Devin nearly met his final fate on several notable occasions. Each and every time was a scare to be sure, but he always had a backup plan to save his ass. This time, however, his brain processes the speed at which the boot is coming down. It's faster than it'll be for his hand to pull out his satchel to save himself. He didn't know that life flashing before your eyes is a real thing before now. He experiences the phenomenon to his fullest. His entire life before him like a movie set on fast forward, with momentary pauses in special slices of time. He is not without knowing the bitterness of mistakes, but this life he chose is the one he wanted, not whatever his parents deemed acceptable for his talents. There is not one regret that surfaces before the end, and in his core he accepts it gladly. In another blink he expects the final sentence of his story, but instead his eyes open to no longer seeing the impending death above him, just a ceiling that reflects the flickering light of continual flames. Confused, he turns his head to the side, seeing an armored Callie intercepting his demise by tackling the intruder away. The princess's body rolls through the air before smashing into the central ring couch, while the much heavier foe stops short. As the cyborg stands back up, she places all of her focus on the recovering Callie, her back now to the prone man. Pulling his item fully free, he aims the functionally disguised device and squeezes the firing mechanism. From what looks like a sort of flashlight, the end mass launches out with a tether and sticks to the back of the cyborg's head square on. She reaches up and turns back to inspect what just occurred. Yet before anything can be done, a grinding, bloody barbed spike juts out of her faceplate. Fine red mist perfumes the air in front of her, before her body falls forward and clatters to the floor motionless. Nailed it, Devin grunts, as he drags himself up to go see to the princess. Rushing in, Miki and Nodrin immediately spot another larger dark-cloaked Terran figure approaching a cluster of defensively defiant, yet ultimately outmatched Grat protecting the ambassador. Knowing the might of this opponent, Miki gives a potential farewell to her love by twisting her tail with theirs once more as they run at it. She felt the tender squeeze in return before the tails unravel. The two then collide together against this new unsuspecting cyborg with feral yet focused violence. Miki once again goes high with her dagger, jamming it into the opponent's chest while wrenching their head back. Nodrin strikes and breaks a repeater into the back of one of the threat's legs, destabilizing their stance before launching themselves into the other side to topple it. Unfortunately, it catches itself in a twisting backpedal and grabs for the Grat on its back. Finding purchase, it yanks the attacker free and slams her down onto the ambassador's novel wooden desk, shattering it in two. Then focusing on the other, it takes hold of Nodrin's helmet before squeezing. Nodrin thrashes and kicks with their augmented strength, but despite the visual damage, the Death Dealer is unaffected. Their visor cracks into a web, disrupting the heads-up display. Pressure builds at the sides of their head as the helmet's integrity begins to fail. Again and again, they strike this faceless monster of metal, but it was in vain. Pain finds itself in Nodrin's head to such a degree that out of sheer desperation they start to claw at the crushing hands and press their legs against the torso to pull themselves away. Despite maxing out their own output, it isn't enough. Just as though their head is on the brink of being crushed, they remember a uniquely obvious feature to their armor. A purple crystal blade strikes up in a swipe, partially cutting into one of the cyborg's arms. Seemingly to finally have been given a reason to back off, Nodrin feels a rush of still quite painful relief as they are thrown down the room and into the back wall. Falling down and severely uncomfortable, Nodrin's priority is to remove their crushed helmet. Almost unable to pry it off, it cuts deep into the sides of their head, leaving trails of blood to roll down, but once it is off, Nodrin is able to focus once more on the battle at hand. They did not notice that the whole time their head was being crushed, Miki had been and still is pinned under a chest-compressing leg, while her bladed tail is held down by the other. Pushing himself up into a forward-launching crawl, Nodrin charges the monster once more. "Get off of her!" they chitter in absolute rage, as they jump and swing their bladed tail in fury. The cyborg lifts its arm to block, but with a sneaky redirection, the Grat's tail curves and swipes across its faceplate. Stumbling back in its first showing of reflexing pain, Miki is free from its crushing influence. The Grat Ranger doesn't take a moment to process injury or pain, instead gripping her dagger and rushing alongside her bondmate as they lash out their armored towers again and again. Until hers is caught just below the blade. In a decisive crunch, the emitter is rendered into a crumpled mess. She is able to pull it away before her tail as a whole can be crumpled, and Nodrin takes note of the risk of being snatched. "The head, dearest," Nodrin informs, as they circle around the other side to flank. "Got it, love," Miki confirms, as she preps to willingly launch herself head-on. Seeming to forego her life entirely, the female Grat leaps up right in the face of the powerful enemy. Predictably, a right hook swings right for her side and she takes it. Though she does her best to roll with it, as Simone has advised in previous times of play and training. As she does so, from her hand she throws her crystal dagger at her opponent's head. With a slight shift of the cyborg's agility, it flies clear over. That's fine. It wasn't the intended target. Nodrin, having leaped a fraction of a moment later than Miki in perfect sync with their beloved, rose up in the air behind the menace. Baring their sharp, seething teeth, they catch the dagger in a reverse grip and hammer it into the side of the cyborg's cranium to the very base of the blade. As Miki tumbles from her impact, Nodrin rides the heavy mass down to the floor and rolls free from it. The two quickly glance up to one another and quickly start to crawl for their bodily pain to one another. Just as their hands take hold, a frenzy of their kin rush upon them. Although there's a storm of fearful and grateful questions, the two are quickly dragged together back to where the cluster of Grat once awaited death. As if treated like lifelong family, they are tenderly tended to, though the other Grat are quite ignorant to how to remove the suits of impressive armor to properly check for injuries. With only one arm, Miki pulls her helmet free just so they can press and rub her face against her bondmate. Although their head aches terribly, Nordrin cries through the pain, wanting to do nothing else either. "By our ancestors' spirits," Nordrin sobs. "We did it. We did it." "We did. Are you terribly hurt, Cherished?" Miki inquires with a wince, both wanting to know and for the others around to be informed. "All over hurts, love. But other than needing to check my skull for fractures, I believe I'm fine." Nordrin whimpers, before placing a hand on the side of Miki's face. "And you, love?" "I'll live. But the last blow may have shattered my arm to bits," she reports with a pained smile. "Miki, Nordrin." An elderly Grat's voice speaks up in authority. The Grat part ways for the ambassador to properly approach. Eyeing the individual, the couple see an elder male Grat both dressed in ceremonial Jarl attire, a newly crafted rose from the materials of the stars. His long grey and black head fur is meticulously braided in a complex network of weaves that nearly trail all the way down to the base of his tail. "Elder Jarl Jeevan," Nordrin greets. "You recognize us?" they ask in genuine surprise. True, they shared correspondence, but this is the first official meeting or seen each other. "Of course I do. Who else would you be? Miki the Ranger, accompanied by her soul bondmate Nordrin the Herbless Shaman. The very first of the Grat to travel amongst the stars. Defenders of not only our world, but our people, and what we stand for. You are living folk tales of the Grat champion back on Samanda, or are you not aware?" the kindly voiced ambassador says. "Surely you exaggerate," Miki chitters in a disbelieving chuckle. Jarl Jeevan leans down to place a grasp on the sides of both of the couple's faces. "I highly doubt there is not one single Grat who does not know your name, siblings. If there is, this day will ensure it. As ambassador, I thank you both with all the ancestors' blessings," he said genuinely, his voice showing signs of crying. The couple look at each other, unsure of how to feel. "We only did what's not only expected but only natural, to protect our people. We are just glad we were here at all," Nordrin responds. "What we do is just as much for the Grat as it is for ourselves," Miki adds with a nod, admittedly leaving out the rest of the galaxy part. "Precisely. You've done our people proud," Jarl Jeevan agrees, as he presses his forehead briefly against the others in humble gratitude. It is then Brandy and Troy run in, weapons at the ready, but upon seeing the Grat panic and the cyborg's unmoving corpse on the ground, they quickly lower their arms. "It's all clear. I'm going to do everything I can to get some medical response here," Brandy informs with an apologetic raise of her hand. Troy casually walks up to the dead pile of metal and lightly kicks it with his boot. Eyeing the resting Grat couple, he gives them a wink. "Too bad I missed this epic touchdown," he said before kneeling down and deactivating the still searing crystal dagger, before handing it to his rifle owner. "Much thanks," Mika replies, "but Nordrin did the down touch. I will practice," she giggles. "Did good. Proudly you," the usually aloof Terran replies in very broken but understandable Grat without the need for a translator. Finding themselves appreciating this unexpected and unprompted reveal more than they would have suspected, the Grat couple's 8 eyes open wide. "You learn Grat?" Miki asks in surprise. "Trying to. At least a little. Brandy's idea, to be honest. Thinks I need something to do in my downtime from the noggin. Sound good?" Troy replies bashfully as he rubs the back of his head. "Need work," Nordrin admits. "But understood. Maybe we help?" Sounds great." Troy gave an enthused thumbs up before sitting himself down on the floor nearby, resting his own bruises. As Brandy awaits for a direct response from anyone, she watches Troy do what he does best. No matter how much of a grisly event or difficult mission, he would always pull out a way to be a calming presence. Despite being an aggravating one in most circumstances, yet Brandy earnestly appreciates that about him. The crew gives him a lot of shit for not thinking things through, and for being an immature man-child sometimes, but the man's loyalty and intentions have never been in question. Thorn once told her that he saw a lot of himself in Troy. She didn't quite believe it at first, but after remembering where Troy came from, and yet somehow kept his big dumb heart intact, she realizes the truth to it. Thorn and Troy both learned the same lesson from their lives and came to the same conclusions. She doesn't know the lesson exactly, but she's glad that she found herself among men who were strong enough to be kind in the face of hardship. Her small smile and soft stare directed at Troy dissipates the sternness, as she is finally able to patch into a nearby medical facility. Alright. It looks like the authorities are course correcting and our comm lines are secure again. We're in the clear for now. Devin updates the princess, as they sit together in the apartment's office room. So I can contact Simone? Chuck asks for clarification. Yes, but keep info brief, just in case, Devin nods. Activating her lens, Chuck opens the line to her fiancé, who answers immediately. Chuck, everything okay? Simone asks breathlessly. It's so good to hear you, love. We were attacked by someone like Sam, but Devin and I handled her and we are fortunately unharmed. Can't say the same for the apartment, however. It will be necessary to relocate. Once I have the address, we can all meet there. Is everyone else alright? Chuck asks. That's my girl, Simone says in great relief and pride. I'm cut up a bit and may have completely totaled the shuttle. Brandy and Troy are good, but the Grat lovebirds need to be taken to a hospital. They'll live, but are pretty roughed up. Any word on Thorn? Chuck turns to Devin. Has Thorn updated his situation? She inquires. Devin lightly licks his upper lip in thought and grimaces. The old man has gone dark, which means he's either dead or he's working on something only he can accomplish. I wager the latter. It's a normal thing for him, so we're going to have to trust that he'll get it done and reconnect with us, Devin informs. Chuck nods and relays that to a Terran. Hate it when he does this, but got it. I'll send you the address of the hospital we're relocating to, and if you get a new apartment soon, I'll see that everyone gets there, Simone responds. Understood. See you soon, my love, the princess farewells. You bet, warrior princess,